Good morning and welcome to Doppler'S Gear Garage. I hope you are having an awesome Saturday wherever it is that you are. It's been kind of a rainy couple of days here in Northern California. Been down in Carmel celebrating my 20th wedding anniversary. Nice to be back in the gear garage here. Who's this cable hanging down? Get out of there. In any case, super excited to talk about the pentatonic today. It's one of my favorite subjects. Whether you blend other notes in with it, or whether you're just kind of hanging out with this guy or gal, depending on how you see it. Arguably, it's the most expressive scale that you could want to have because since there are less notes in it, you have a 3 in 5 chance of, if you will, ending your phrases on one of what I call the notes in the tonic chord. So let's say we're in the key of A minor. And we're going 6 chord, 4 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord. That overarching tonality there of that 6 chord is home. It's the tonal center. And the notes of that chord, that 1, flat 3, 5, that A, C, and E. There we go, I heard that in there. That's really where we want to be resolving, even if it's over this chord. So we've talked before about this concept of when we're playing over, again, that's our kind of, if you will, this is 6, 7, 1, 2, that 2 chord is functioning as a 2, that D minor 7. 2 chords functioning as a 2, that D minor 7 is functioning as a 2. Even over that chord, we do want to resolve to notes of that chord as well. That's what I call a micro-modality. That is to say, when we're going, let's say we're going our chord progression 6, 4, 4, 2, 5. When we're playing over that 2 chord, even though we're still in the key of A minor, it still has the sound of the Dorian mode, because as we're playing that chord, the notes that we're using to build that chord are coming out of the Dorian mode. So hence they are taking on the sound of that Dorian mode, but yet the overarching tonality will be on the tonic chord. You know it's coming. So both of those are happening at the same time. So if you want to have to pick one or the other, being really conscious of what's happening at the tonic chord is important, which is why the minor pentatonic is such a great scale to start off soloing with. The challenges most of us are shown, as Spencer pointed out, calling that the pentatonic box is what we used to call it back in the day. And that's going to be one of our kind of diversionary points that we're going to talk about. It's not just one box. There's actually 5 boxes, depending on whether you're playing off the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, or 5th notes of the pentatonic. Respectively, that's the 1, flat 3, 4, 5, and the flat 7. But we can think about it as being the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th notes of the minor pentatonic scale. And the advantage of that is it allows us to begin to do what we referred to a couple of weeks ago as the lawnmower effect. That is, you can begin to kind of slice and dice any pair of strings up and down the neck. And this is where a lot of us kind of fall off, is that we kind of get so married to this first box shape that we may wander down to pattern number 5, up to pattern number 1, quite often kind of doing this little octave shape around this box that starts off the flat 7th. But most of the time we're thinking about it as a box rather than going, well, what's driving the actual shape of that box? And that's important to point out. So let me take a quick moment and jump in and say hello to Chris Alexander. Hello. Always a pleasure, my friend. Paul Richard, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. We had a lovely time. Albert, good morning. So little Kramer time. This guitar is surprisingly versatile, especially through those amps. No surprise, but... All right. Spencer, good morning. The man with the pentatonic box himself. Thank you. We're either on fire or drowning. Today it's the latter. There we go. Douglas, oh my. Okay. Well, thank you, Spenceronius. All right, Raphael, good morning to you. Hello. All right, awesome, excellent, excellent. Recovering from the Pacific Northwest bomb cyclone. Tell me about it. Well, I hope you've got your power back on. There we go, cup of block. Hold on. There we go. I'm going to take that's Java or Espanol for Java, or Java and Espanol, and Mexican cocoa. Sounds very tasty, my friend. All right, Jimmy Arsenault. That looks like the system by Randy Rhodes. There we go, my gold Rhodes. Great to see you, Jimmy. Jimmy and I have a shared history. Jimmy booked me about 5 million times in various clubs around the San Francisco Bay Area. And thanks to him, I got a lot of stage experience that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for his kind benevolence. So thank you for that, sir. Much appreciated. There, hold on. There we go. Boom. Sister 2. I knew what you meant. Pura vida. Good morning, Esteban. I guess it's about time that we actually need to properly do this whole thing. Come on, where did my... Don't go hiding. There we go. Let's do a little raise them up here. Come on. Gosh darn it. Hiding from me. Where have you decided to go hiding today? I added some new links for last week's show, and raise them up has just... There we go. Come on. That's what we're talking about. So I am drinking some Pete's and my Aptavia shake this morning. Let me know what you're drinking and where you're coming from. And then, what I would love it if you could so kindly do, put a little note in the chat. When you were first shown the pentatonic, I might have asked this question before, but it's an important question because the reality is, most of the time when we're taught about how to solo, you know, let's just imagine you just, as simple as something so like we want to add some little embellishment around our chord progression. We're like, where do we go? You know, even if it's the most basic things, or kind of just embellishing a chord progression, not really even soloing per se, but, and by the way, I'm going to pause this thought here for a second and talk about an interesting sub-concept, which is one of the things a lot of the time when I'm playing rhythm guitar, I'm actually soloing using chords and or bits of the piece of the pentatonic. And that was kind of a good example of that. And it's an interesting thing because strategically, I would say that most of us, and we are going to come back to the pentatonic in just a moment as the primary focal point, but when we're playing rhythm, we put on our rhythm hat, you know, and then when we're playing lead, we're, thinking different things, and arguably so. Gotta go there. So that's not like we're just kind of playing rhythm. And I can't help but adding what I refer to as decoration. So part of this is if you have a great ear, then the kind of the talking parts of this don't really necessarily matter because you hear the notes, and ideally your ear and your fingers have the ability to add them. However, if you're like the rest of us, the idea is the notes and kind of where to play them. We need a little bit of a kind of, if you will, a dictionary to kind of look up what to go to, where, and why. And as it ties into the pentatonic, most of the time we're just taught this thing as a box. And if we're lucky, we kind of know that that lowest note is the root, and that's about all we get. We don't know why it's called the minor pentatonic. We don't know what makes it minor. We just know that if there's kind of a minor type chord progression, you slap that puppy over the same note that the root of the chord progression is on the low E string, and you're good to go, right? But the idea of this decoration and pentatonic, and that decoration, to add that decoration to the chords, when I'm doing it from the from a modal point of view, if you know what the notes are, it makes it a lot easier. So this week's Theory Geek Thursday was about taking the minor pentatonic. Okay, if it's more than just the shape, what the heck is it? And harmonically, if you play it on one string, and I'm big on playing it on one string because it gives us this visual roadmap of what's really going on. That is to say, if we look at that distance between... Sorry, well, the interesting thing about being able to recognizing intervals is they begin to kind of give you hints of certain sounds. In any case, as we look at this note, this note, this note, and this note, and this note, and we think about this as being a step and a half, either made up of a whole step or a half step and a whole step. I should say, sorry, a whole step and a half step, or a half step and a whole step. Regardless, it's a step and a half or a half and a step. Whole step, step and a half or half and a step, and whole step. And that's just describing with words the sound of this. In turn, if we think about the major scale, his notes are A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A. We got an A, C, D, E, G, A, which respectively 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and 1. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. A, C, D, E, G, A. And in my own sick, twisted, can't get enough of it sort of mind, I love being able to think about it as, just the sound, so you can really hear what's happening harmonically. Not if you play the wrong note. And also think about it as 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. 1, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, 1. And also think about it as A, C, D, E, G, A. Now, one of the interesting things about this little bit of business with the boxing is, Spencer, thank you very much for that comment on Instagram, as I recall, is if we take a look at the first 4 notes, there are a couple of interesting things happening. If we think about it like that, they're a minor third apart, and then 2 major seconds. One of the things I think I certainly still have a little bit of an issue with is seeing that and knowing it's this, but not being quite as comfortable as when I see those 2 notes on the same string versus when I see that major second on adjacent strings. It's just a little bit further outside there, which is one of the reasons it's good to be able to go, okay, well, here's the sound of this thing, and here's the sound of this thing, and that's 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 1, step and a half to the flat 3, whole step to the 4, whole to the 5, step and a half, or we're just going to actually reduce that, call that a minor third. That, by the way, if you've never heard that terminology, that's the first 3 notes of the major scale. That right there is a major third. If we take a major third and lower it a half step, we're going to call that a minor third. And that can either be made up of by going a half step and a whole step. Sorry, a whole step and a half step, or a half step and a whole step. Brain on. Thank you. All right, so the deal is we got a minor third, major second, minor third, major second. Again, minor third, major second, minor third, major second. So being able to take that linear stuff and map it over to this box-like shape allows us, as we look at the first 4 notes and kind of go, okay, well, that is, first of all, excuse me, this box that goes 1, 4, 1, 3. But we can also think of that as 1, flat 3, 4, 5. And we can also think of that as A, C, D, E. And this is where it gets really interesting, because that little box right there happens every time you can find an A, and you can just plug that in. And that's where it gets really interesting, because it allows us to completely blow up our traditional. We find the root on the low E string, we cut and paste that box shape, and we play the same crap over and over and wonder why it doesn't sound more inspired than the last 1,000 times we played it. So again, all we did was we took, hey, that little 1, flat 3, 4, 5, also known as A, C, D, E. If you can think of that A note, which by the way is, again, most of us got at least the bottom note of the scale. We're saying, hey, let's just take that box. We can play it. First of all, as we look at pattern number 1. We're going to get inside this thing. Going to get inside your bitter mind. All right, sorry. We got, basically, if we think of that, these notes as A, C, D, E, G, A. 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. Pattern number 1 starts off the 1. Pattern number 2 starts off the flat 3. Pattern number 3 off the 4. Pattern number 4 off the 5. And pattern number 5 off the flat 7. So if we kind of think about this, also at the same time as starting off the A, C, D, E, G, A, pattern number 1 is going to start off with A, C, D, E. Pattern number 2 is going to go C, D, E, G. Pattern number 3 is going to go D, E, G, A. And pattern number 4 is going to go E, G, A, C. And pattern number 5 is going to go G, A, C, D. So if we're kind of cruising along, just kind of going, okay, well, if I just play the right shape, and I can meander through the notes A, C, D, E, G, A. At the same time I'm going this, then I'm just going C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D. And if we kind of wait until we go, wait a second, all right, C, D, E, G, A, C. Oh, A, C, D, E. That's where we can know why we're playing that box shape where we are. We're not just conveniently going up 2 strings and 2 frets, which is totally legit. Nothing wrong with the shape-based nature of the guitar, but at the point we do that, another interesting thing begins to happen is if you can look at the lateral splay of the notes. Above this minor third starting off the 1, you got a major second starting off the 4. You got a major second starting off the flat 7. Well, guess what? If we go like this, sorry, I got to be at the right place. There's my A. Again, let me walk my way up there so I play the right thing. That's C, D, E, G, A, C. Thank you. I'm looking for that A, C. Well, guess what? If we went minor third, major second, minor third, major second. So we can literally take not just this box, but we can kind of begin to lay out the way the minor pentatonic flows. And, sorry, holy cow. We got minor third, major second, minor third, major second, and then the minor third, major second, another major second on the top. So you can then basically cut and paste that whole shape when we end up on this 4th string here of the sequence, that is, as in 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, not as in 6th, 5th, 4th, 3rd, but as we get to the 4th string, we gotta compensate for the fact that the 2nd string's detuned a half step. So we gotta kind of jump up an extra fret there, right? Sorry, that's actually gonna happen on the 3rd string of the sequence. And then we gotta also compensate for, actually, no, note to self, wrong. The idea is where we have to do the shift is when we take that and we get to the 2nd string there. So what we play right here has to be up an extra fret. And then the next pair of notes after that are going to be like that. So that is to say where we went kind of starting with the first finger at the 5th fret, we went 1 4 1 3 1 3 1 3. We're going to go 1 4 1 3 2 4 2 4. But you can see how we've just cut and pasted that idea. So if we then in turn kind of go, all right, that was A, C, D, E. Well, we move over to the beginning of pattern number 3. 1 starts off the first note. Pattern number 2 starts off the second note. Pattern number 3 starts off the third note, and that's going to be A, C, D, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, and there's our D, E right there. Well, we don't have any place to go above there, but at least we can see that we can play that same shape there. And so and if you wanted to get all fancy pants, go, well, if we've been going up, why can't we go down? So the deal is, if we take this little bit of business, right, and we just look at that pair, that minor third right there, and that's it right there, and we went down, as in going C, A, and this is where this whole bit, what we were doing on Thursday, where we think about the notes, as it relates to the fingering, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 1, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, 1, so on and so forth. So as we come down, we can kind of go, okay, well, there's my flat 3, 1, flat 7, 5. So if we kind of go up here, oh, that's going to mimic that. We have to be conscious of what happens as we're kind of engaging where things got splayed on this, on that relationship between the third and second strings, because they're tuned in a major third as opposed to a perfect fourth. But the idea allows us to kind of begin to place this in a way that we don't traditionally use the minor pentatonic, which is the bigger point. So we kind of got it there. There we are at the 12th fret on the A string, out of pattern number 4. So what's interesting about this, you can just see the bottom 3 strings cut and pasted to the 5th, 4th, and 3rd. And that's going to be 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 1, flat 3, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, A, C, D, E, G, A, A, C, D, E, G, A. So if you can think about these in terms of the note names, it allows you to kind of begin to plug this in. And as we learned a minute ago, kind of downhill from that minor third at the 1 and the flat 3 is another minor third happening at the flat 7 and the 5, as in, and if we think of those notes, that's C, A, G, E. So that's C, A, and wait for it, G, E. So when we begin to get inside there, we can begin to solve some of what I call minor pentatonicitis, where we just play the same licks in the same places over and over, and we just kind of don't get any more inspired. Most of the time, if we're not careful, we get less inspired. And that's bad for our musical soul, if you will. All right, I see comments floating in here, so I got to jump in and 10 bar, gosh darn it. All right, hang on a second. All right, so I got to jump back. Oh, hello. Whoa, okay. Hang on a second. I see lots of distractions waiting for me. I love that. First of all, thanks again for joining me this morning. Great to be here with you. Okay. Mark Turvey, thank you so much, my friend. Always a pleasure. 1% Skinnerd, or the Skinnerd 1%. I'm going to float that either way. In any case, Sean, good morning. Great to see you. Thanks so much. Awesome. There we go. Milo sweet tea. Imagine that, sweet tea for a sweet guy in a good way. Major Dickinson's blend. I think this is either the Majors or this is Pete's. I think they call it the 101, but either way, kind of at the end of the day, I am kind of a Pete's guy, so hats off, my friend. Yes, the power back on, back, but out Tuesday night, back on Thursday at 4:45. Ernie Ball Beginner Book for Blues, 1984. I'll make a note of that. Hold on a second. Ernie Ball Beginner Book of Blues. So, the interesting thing is, per your point, back in the day before all this internet and all this stuff, there were whether it was Mel Bay or whatever it was, there were these method books that people used to be able to turn to. And the great thing is, they were actually a method, and you can kind of get into a whole inclusive way of looking at the instrument. And those were really powerful. Very cold in the Northeast. It's noon already, finished. There we go. Nicaraguan coffee. Come on, Griffin, good morning. I'm drinking the souls of my enemies. I wish I was shown the pentatonic scale in the first several months of playing around 8 or 9, I think. So, it's a funny thing. When I work with my youngest students, they're usually somewhere between 6 and 8. I've got a kid that's playing bass that I think he's 11 now. But one of the first things I show them is just basically... First thing I show them is just to take something they know, Twinkle Twinkle. Because at least at the end of the first lesson, as cheesy it might be, they can play a song they know on the guitar. The next thing is A blues, because you can cut and paste, kind of do one of the great things that's great about the guitar. That A blues thing, open A string, open D string, open E string. And then somewhere, right around that, I will give them chromatic exercise A, so they can get used to the idea of alternate picking. I also get a chance to see what their aptitude is in terms of being able to climb the neck using multiple fingers and integrating the left and the right hand together. I also get, from the very beginning, get a chance to teach them to put their fingers, per your point, Griffin, ideally, we would have been shown, hey, we want to put our finger at the upper edge of that fret there, such that we kind of have a sense of, like, that's how we play most in tune, and we also want to have this curl and arch. And frequently, I will grab a pencil, and I will have people learn to kind of hold the pencil like this, so you get used to the idea of extending the fingers at kind of an angle like this to compensate for the fact that the pinky is shorter, but still getting curl and arch to that last joint of the pinky there. But the idea is you take that and you drop out a couple of fingers, and you got the minor pentatonic. Yes, it's a great thing to just kind of in the beginning be able to do that and say, hey, by the way, you play a minor chord, which we'll get to a little bit later, But if they're going like this, gives them a chance to start soloing right away, and you give them a little explanation of what it is without freaking them out. The minor pentatonic, Doug knows this, contains minor 7 chord notes, that minor third, major third transition in blues, and flat 5, and you're ready to rock. So, it's interesting. Somewhere back in my memory bank, I remember being taught what the blues scale was that added the flat 5. The irony is that we were told that we were adding the flat 5, but we didn't really know what we were adding the flat 5 to other than a shape. I mean, the irony is you don't know it's 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, and that you're adding the flat 5. I mean, at that point you go, I guess if that's the flat 5, I guess that's the 5, but they usually don't even say that. They don't go, hey, that fourth note in the scale, that's the 5, by the way. We're going to add its next door neighbor. And we certainly don't go, hey, by the way, that's a flat 3, go to the 4, and then hammer on for the flat 3 to the natural 3. If you want to play over that dominant 7 chord, it's like head explode, whatever. Yes, Eric, good morning, my friend. Great to see you as always. Eric is kind of the voice in the back of my mind about, don't forget the intervallic nature, because Eric and I talk a lot about ear training. And I think last week I mentioned something that I just absolutely love, and it kind of came out, and it was just one of those things that we think about when we've been doing music long enough that we don't always think about it cognitively, but, it's like lower, higher, how close, or how far. It's like, it's logical, but if nobody ever says to you, by the way, as you're looking for the next note in a melody, the next note in a chord, is it lower or higher by how much or how little? Oh, okay, it just kind of allows you, I don't know, let me set my compass by a lot or a little. Do I have to, does it really sound like, as we look at this, and the great thing about doing this linearly, by the way, we get a chance to see the notes that are further apart and less further apart. Further, less so as we begin to kind of and we kind of go, we saw minor third, major second, minor third, major second, we can kind of begin to kind of go, oh, okay, I guess I can see that if that's the octave of the 1 in the flat 3, I guess that's going to be the 5 in the flat 7, which if we go backwards, flat 3, 1, flat 7, 5, we know that it's that way, but we kind of, if we don't have, this whole presentation, we kind of begin to sever, and I'm going to not take my own bait yet. David, good morning to you. Great to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Nice photo there, by the way. Spencer, it's why I like to use the diminished scale sometimes just to leave the blues tonality briefly and then come back to it. So, all right, so any of you that don't know what he's talking about, first of all, what I did way back in the day, Joe Satriani would have taught me the symmetrical scale, which is basically, it's symmetrical because it's going half step, whole step, half step, and it just repeats after like that. So basically, the way he showed it to me was you would start with the first finger at the 5th fret, you would do a half step slide, and then you go 3, 4. You'd move up a string, repeat that same thing. When we get to the 2nd string, we move up an extra fret. I think I missed one note there somewhere. But the diminished scale is the opposite. But I think what Spencer might have been alluding to is the idea of basically superimposing those stacked minor thirds, or maybe not, but the idea is if we're playing a dominant 7 chord, you can kind of do this interesting thing where for that 1 in the flat 3 there, and you're doing some interesting, that's going to be our natural 6. So when I'm playing over this little bit of business here, I'm basically thinking what I call the mixo-octatonic scale. So that's basically a 1, 2, flat 3, 3, 4, 5, 6, flat 7, 1. And the one rule harmonically is if you're going to go from the flat 3 to the natural 3, or from the flat 3 to the 4 to the flat 3, once you go to the natural 3, you generally don't go back to the flat 3. It's just kind of one of the harmonic unspoken rules. And if you go back to the flat 3, you will again follow what either another note, and you in fact go back to the flat 3 again. You will depart the flat 3 by going to a natural 3 eventually. So that is where knowing this is 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 1, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, 1, flat 7, 5, 4, flat 3, 1. Then you kind of begin to go, all right, if I can go it slowly, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1. There's that flat 3. There's my natural 3. All right, so that's where we begin to kind of go, all right, let's go back to this dominant 7 chord. And it stacks up, building that tension. So that's basically 1, flat 3, flat 5, natural 6, 1, flat 3. And what's cool about that is you begin to think that through. That's all right. 1, flat 3, flat 5, 6, 1, flat 3, flat 5, 6, 1 flat 3 flat 5 flat 6. So it means that if we take what we learned there, thank you very much for that, Spencer, by going 1 flat 3 4 5, we can then in turn go 1 flat 3 flat 5 naturals. The other thing, you can kind of go backwards down that. That's a flat 3 1 natural 6 and a flat 5. Anticipating that kind of back. Back in the day, so I would think of this as taking the minor pentatonic and groups of 3 notes. Sorry, that's 4s. My bad. My brain and my fingers didn't connect. I've been practicing my 4s. Because they're hard, and I run at them instead of away from them, which I would encourage you to do. But that's groups of 3s. Back in the day, we would call that up 2 and back 1. And if you're old enough, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Up 2, back 1. That's how you go up 2 notes, you go back 1, and you do the same thing. And that's how we learn to play that. In any case, I'm thinking of that as the minor pentatonic in groups of 3 notes. So you're simply starting off of each tone of the scale. And when you start off each tone, you go up a total of 3 notes. But if you take, do that with the minor pentatonic, and then translate that idea into these minor thirds. Oh. I haven't gotten any better at that over the years. I remember playing that as a kid and kind of going, ooh, I'm not good at that. I'm going to have to come back to that. So the deal is, if we take, though, and apply that. Nothing like embarrassing myself on live internet. Okay, so the idea is we're taking this by going, we're off the 6, there we go. And just doing that same concept, but with these kind of minor thirds stacked. And by the way, just to display that out, you're just basically going a minor third shape, you're moving up a string and a fret. And when you get to the 3rd string jumping over to the 2nd string, you move up 1 string and 2 frets. And you reflect that on the way down. And then I'll be working on that. So that way I did this kind of different variation. Instead of going, I did this kind of, it's like when you kind of start dribbling a basketball. I'm basically going flat 3 1 flat 3. All right, in any case, I digress there, but that's what's neat about that. You can find the 6. Okay. Let's take this concept, which is this 1 flat 3 4 5. The important notes of that are the 1 flat 3 and the 5. So that is to say we've got our, I'm going to go back to our little chord progression. So that's a 6 chord, 4 chord, 2 chord, 5 chord. And we think about this 1 flat 3 4 5. And inside that, the 1st, 2nd, and 4th notes of that sequence are the notes. The resolution tones of that minor chord. Per Spencer's point, I pretty much will never resolve to the flat 7, even if you're playing a minor 7, because it just makes you want to go. And this is the other thing about kind of knowing where they are. There's my G, and that's it. And once I can, if I know that the minor pentatonic is A, C, D, E, G, A, and I know that's also the 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1, I know that G is my flat 7. So instead of aiming for the A, let's just aim for the G. So that's going to be it right there. So instant tension. There's that G right there. Chris Alexander in Chris's questions. Hold on a second here, and I'm still offering some salutations to some folks over there, but we do actually have to raise it up for Chris's questions. Hello, Chris. I love that photo. He asked something about the point where we were kind of talking about, hey, being able to, if you can identify and think of that as 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7, or A, C, D, E, G, A, or if you're completely out of your mind, 1, C, 4, D, flat 7, A. And that's what I call the Doppler shuffle, because I'm absolutely out of my mind, because I love messing with this stuff. It's just words to describe this. I should say letters and numbers to describe this. But the more inside it, the better off you're going to be. So if you can kind of begin to identify that flat 7. And his question was about, in Videology, Steve talks about being able to take a note that's not in the key and learn to somehow bring it into the mix of this. So I'm talking about the flat 7. I've said, hey, it's 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7. I didn't say anywhere it's mentioned that the natural 7's in the key, because it's not. But one of the things that I love working with, just in the same way we did this, we added the flat 5. Again, this is 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1. That's the 4 and the 5, and that guy. Even as we're ascending from the 4 to the 5, that's a flat 5, and that is a flat 5 on the way down. We kind of, often learn to just go, hey, anywhere. I remember just kind of early on, anywhere you got a whole set, you're just kind of filling in that middle note with a little chromatic note there, and the ability to take that natural 7. It's not in the key, especially. That doesn't really sound all pretty to my ear. And all right, but. And if you play this note at the same time, you're like, oh, holy cow, that doesn't sound right, but. But if you use that tension, and as I'm doing that, my brain, I've gotten used to thinking of it enough. I know that's the flat 5. And I know that I'm doing that little. I'm going 1, 4, flat 5, 5, 5, flat 5, 4, and then flat 1. Because I've learned to just kind of doing this enough time, 1, flat 3, 4, 5. I don't always get it right, but I'm just, after a while, you just kind of know. I don't know. Sorry, I was aiming for that. If you play an A major chord long enough, you kind of go, that's A, because it is. You just know it, because at a certain point, you know it, right? And so the great thing about the numbers, I can find my flat 5. But if you get comfortable with E, G, A, C, D, E, after a while you kind of go, okay, well, my tonic triad for E minor is an E, G, and a B. Which means I already know 3 of the 5 notes. That's E, G, B, and that's E, G, and that's a minor third. The next note is a major second. If that's G, then it's going to be A. We already know we got B and that minor third right there, because we know that's a minor third. And we know it's a whole step down below the E. I guess that's going to make that a D. And per Spencer's point, if we know our 7 chords well enough, E, G sharp, B, C sharp, sorry, E, G sharp, B, D sharp, I guess I don't know them well enough, E, G sharp, B, D sharp is a major 7 chord, so I guess E, G, B, D is a minor 7 chord. So we already know we got an E, G, B, D, and so now we just need to fill in that E, A, that perfect fourth, and we kind of already know 1-4, or the guitar's tuned in 4, so if this is our 1, that note right there is our 4, that means that's going to be A. Okay, let me take a quick moment and jump back in chat world. Oh, that's so funny. Okay, oh boy, there's so much meat on the bone there. So I started my day on a Strat. Okay, so we're going to hit the pause button here because I'm absolutely, and I know there's some other comments there, so I apologize. First of all, I can see Spencer, hello again. Eric, good morning. Raphael, hello again. Griffin, I still have my Mel Bay book. Come on. All right, so let me jump back into this and talk about this. And Albert, always a pleasure, my friend. So I'm in the midst of refining the material for this rigs course. My partner in crime and I are probably going to shoot that sometime in theory in November or December, and or a little bit in the early part of 2025, depending on their schedule. Initially, in my classic way of doing things, I was going to create this really super in-depth thing that at some point is probably going to get rolled out into some slightly different things, but included kind of as we look at what I refer to as component groups. By the way, if I invite you, if you haven't already, last Friday, a week ago Friday, I dropped the third and final video in the JP2C 112 combo series, and in that video, I, along with Matty Schifferstein, John Petrucci's tech, we're building basically a small version of John Petrucci's rig. And in that video, I talk about what I refer to as component groups. That is to say, you got your stuff that goes into the front end of the amplifier, for all of that business back there. You got the stuff that goes into the loop. So those are kind of your effects component group. In theory, if I had my PBC6X up there, that would be another piece of that group that's allowing me to turn individual pedals or groups thereof on and off with a single button press. And in turn, send MIDI information. So you've got, your pedals, maybe any controllers that relate to the pedals. You got your amps, you got your guitars. So I put together this really pretty much inclusive from stem to stern breakdown of everything that's kind of inside the variants of guitars. So I'm going to, with pleasure, kind of break down the important part as we go Strat Les Paul or Strat EVH, as I recall. And it's an interesting thing because as I've been kind of, I've mentioned probably for several weeks that I'm in the middle of doing this video on the Badlander. We keep extending it because the longer I use the amp, the more I discover that I love about it, and the more we go like, well, we can't miss this, and we kind of keep digging and digging and digging, which I'm kind of happy to do because I love the brand, I love the amp, and I love kind of going, wow, there's more here. I'm not done. As it relates to the different instruments, one of the things, I'm not going to jump over to the Strat, but my morning started with the Strat because the Strat was plugged in, because before we left last week, the Strat was the last thing that I was using. And it is a markedly different instrument for these reasons. Number one, the scale length. And as we think about the neck, this guy is probably an ebony fingerboard akin to a Les Paul Custom. That Strat's a rosewood fingerboard akin, if you will, I should say, a rosewood on top of a maple fingerboard. So the sound of that neck, the shape of that neck, the fret wire on that neck, again, the scale, Gibson scale is a shorter scale than Fender. The frets are closer together, and if you got wider pads or get sausage finger, and you go to play something like an F sharp minor 7 flat 5 up there, you will appreciate the benefit of being able to play a Gibson scale, or sorry, a Fender scale instrument over a Gibson scale. So there are nuances that separate these out. Also, quite often, a Strat will have at least one string tree. And then you get into the tremolos. So as we kind of go stem to stern, first of all, if it's a Gibson, although this guitar does not have them, one of the first things that I do is I replace the tuners with locking tuners. The next thing I'll do is I'll have Gary Brower just take a look at the nut and see if there's any catch going on there. Then I'm aware of if I've got a Strat that I've got tuned to E flat, the first thing I'm going to do is put 10s on there. Just guaranteed. If I've got a Strat at standard tuning, I have a tendency to put 9 through 42s because generally that's how those guitars, in my opinion, are set up to be played. I think they kind of like to live, in my opinion, with all the decades of playing Strats. They kind of, in my opinion, sound best at standard tuning with 9 through 42. Bring it down a half step, 10 through 46, as opposed to 10 through 52. And in turn, you begin to notice all sorts of things about the way the guitar responds. So that larger scale, because this is a Fender scale instrument as well, you will play a little bit differently. There'll be things that you're going to notice about kind of having to arch your fingertips. But the sound. You know what? I'm gonna take the bait here. Hang on. Come here, Pinky. The reason I did not play this guitar today is because it's tuned down a half step, and with that in mind, I was like, you know what? If we're going to be doing anything that I'm going to have anybody potentially want to play along with, it's kind of not cool to use a guitar that's tuned down. Now, I couldn't get my direct out thing working today, and it's not any fault of the amps. By the way, I think it's the stupidest looking thing when I see somebody put a right angle jack into a Strat, but it's how I had it set up for the Kramer. So, all right. So the number one thing about any Strat that you can play, if it doesn't have it, get it done, is get what I refer to as the Eric Johnson mod. So this guitar, if I'm all the way over in the bridge pickup, allows you to take that tone control And single coils have a ton of personality, so what you want to be conscious of is in the bridge position on a stock Strat, that pickup will take your flipping head off. The other thing that will happen is if you're in the neck position, especially on EL34s, if you're not careful, they can be a little bit pokey. Now on these amps, and I've got it set there, I'm going to unset it from there and do something I don't normally do because it doesn't sound as good. Right now it's going to be a little bit louder, and again, I'm not running direct, so it's not going to be the bestest sound ever. Well, it didn't do it. Sometimes this guitar that sounds really nice. Can be a little pokey in the neck position when the amp is set for where you want to set with EL34s for a Gibson type instrument. Gibsons, I used to use the word flubby. I think it must have just been kind of the way I used to dial sounds in, but some of the guitars that I had always felt a little flubby, but I think it was my playing. I just hadn't quite developed a better... But I will say a bad pickup in a Gibson scale instrument will sound flubby in the neck position. So as an end result, when you switch over to a Strat or a Stratoid single coil type of deal, in the neck position can be a little strident. So what I flipped the switch there was from pentode to triode. So or I should say from triode to pentode. Triode is a less efficient way to operate the tube. Pentode, you're going to get an increase in volume and an increase in clarity, but you also get an increase in punctuation in the bottom end, which sometimes on a Strat in the neck position, it just tightens up the bottom end, and sometimes it has a little bit more poke to it than you might want. But right there, and you want to watch out when I'm talking about that. There you go. If I hit it really hard, I realize this thing's not perfectly in tune, but if I back it off down to, and I put it into triode mode there, that not only are you going to get a decrease in volume, the way it's going to interact with the amp, if you have an amp there that's able to do that, is a thing. Or you just want to be conscious of the fact that it's not only the top end is going to add some extra treble, it's also what kind of begins to happen as you're kind of dealing with these different parts of the way the scale of the instrument and the nature of the instrument interact with your amplifier. And so, the neat thing is on these particular amps, pretty much as soon as I pick up another important thing, traditionally we think of these called single coil, and on the other guitar double coil. But a better way of describing this is narrow aperture single coil. You can also have narrow aperture double coil. You can also have narrow aperture humbucking, which really is a narrow aperture where they basically put one coil above the other. So the point being is, well, you can have, with a P90, which is a wide aperture single coil pickup. So the idea is that as much as it, in the olden days, if you saw something look like this, we would think single coil. If we saw something like in, the Mustaine guitar, we go double coil. Not so fast. So the idea is narrow aperture, because the important thing about this is that it's hearing the string from one location, right? Versus a wide aperture pickup, which is more traditionally like our humbucking pickup. It's hearing, if you think about the difference between this middle pickup here and the bridge pickup, and for some reason Lee decided, let's make the bridge pickup even brighter, because it's not bright enough over by the bridge. But there's a fair amount of difference between the way these two pickups sound. So the idea of having a pickup that's picking up, if you think about pinch harmonics and how much a little bit of movement changes the harmonic content, well, the same thing is true of the way that pickup is hearing the string, which is why a wide aperture pickup has a fuller sound, but you don't always want a fuller sound. The other thing is that stock Fender tremolos, I'm going to use the word sorta stay in tune. This one also does a thing where the strings in the studio, or for the demos on this guitar, which there are going to be some, I will be putting some sort of string mute. The Jimmy clip, there's a Jimmy clip. So this is one of the greatest devices ever. This is called the Jimmy clip. And you put that up along here, or you put it upside down. It sometimes works a little bit better. And it gets rid of, what am I getting rid of? Well, this is going to, first of all, make my guitar go out of tune, but I don't have enough gain. But sometimes you'll hear this ging, 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 ging noise happening up there at the headstock. And what that is the string having a little bit of a twist to it. And there was an interview where Eddie Van Halen talked about, not only I think he boiled his strings, but he would have X number of twists. He would twist the string a certain number of times, such that once he put the string on the headstock, and as he turned the guitar to get it to go in tune, the string would be running straight along the length, versus just kind of stringing it up. And then you start twisting, and the string starts to twist like this. And so when you use the tremolo, it only does it when I really don't want it to do. You can really hear it. Of course, you can't hear it. But the Jimmy clip, basically, that sound is actually happening up here. So you can install the Jimmy clip at said location, and that will deaden the string up here at the headstock. It's also great if you've got kind of some sort of trapeze type of bridge that's making some sort of noise. You can put it down there as well. But it's a huge help. So for those of you that don't have a narrow aperture single coil style pickup there, I apologize if I bored you to death, but this stuff's important. So with these tremolos, the sound of the Strat to me is the bridge is as important as anything else. So a couple of things to keep in mind as you're doing this. I generally think of things as a down and an upward spot with the tremolo. The challenge of the upward spot, which is the bestest way to pull the extra string that gets stuck on the other side of the nut there, is to give it a little yank and tune with the tremolo in the upper position. The downside of that is generally if you give the string a big bend, the guitar will then come to sit in the lower position, because generally speaking, tremolos have a tendency to sit in an upper or lower position, and that's just kind of why if you tune to one or the other and you do kind of the wrong or the right type of activity, your guitar is going to go out of tune. And it's just part of these deals. Before the Floyd Roses, my number one guitar had locking saddles. That helped a lot because the string is kind of working its way through the block, and usually basically many of these, and they stopped doing this on some of the newer guitars, they have a bridge and they have a block that sits below there that the string travels through. And in the olden days, when Doug would break one of the numerous tremolo arms off in the block, I would have to unstring the guitar, take the saddles off. There are 3 screws that hold the bridge and the block together. You would unscrew the bridge from the block, and you would kind of get the last little bit of the nub of the tremolo arm was stuck in there, and you get some needle nose pliers and pull it out. Or you would just plain replace the block if the end of the bar of where you broke it was below the edge of the block, because they always broke right around there. Ooh, it's starting to rain again. So all that to say, there's all this other stuff going on here. The thing about a Strat, and this morning I plugged it in. The number 4 pickup selection and the number 2 pickup selection are magic. Really just something very, very, very special. So, Mark, I congratulate you. You're going to have such a great journey. The reality is that most of my life I'm spent. You can get a Strat to do a bunch of the things that a traditional Gibson scale instrument will do. You can get a Gibson scale instrument with a little bit of customization to get it to do most of the things that a Fender scale instrument will do, but they're never totally able to nail what the other one does. The difference in scale, the nuance of the difference of body woods. There's a lot of mahogany going on over there. This is probably alder, maple, and rosewood, and that will make a difference. So all these things collectively begin to add together to create a very different guitar experience. But that's part of the magic. So I'm excited to hear what kind of sort of stuff you start doing, and I totally agree. There's so many great things. What was that? Oh, my guitar's angry at me. The other thing, and arguably the most important thing, is you go to write on these instruments, they will make you play differently. And that's probably one of the reasons why having some Strats and some Les Pauls and some Kramers and some different instruments in your arsenal allows you to kind of find some different sounds than, this is... Hold on. Let's try this again. And again, they just, getting these things to stay in tune perfectly. Some people manage to do it, but they just kind of, it's not a perfect art. And you just kind of got to be okay with that. Especially if you want to do any serious vlogging. song called Tear Me Down. It's actually both on the vocal and the instrumental album that was all about this guitar. Never would have played that on the Gibson. And just the sound of that. That's the other thing. Strats, because of the radius of the neck. That's a major second bend, right? And if I go for that next major second above there, it frets out. So it's a thing. You'll discover that soon enough. But that said, oh, look at that. Okay, hang on a second. All right, let me do it. Greatly influenced by Blackmore. Made in Japan is the ultimate live album. Trower and Ed King. So, yes. And you know what? As long as we're going to go there. Let's, I'm going to need to flip my cable here. Yeah, ooh, okay, sure. This is not my guitar, but it's a guitar, and this is a rumor has it this used to be owned by Joe B, and it's a '59 Telecaster. It's on loan from a buddy of mine, and this guitar is one of the. I'm in drop D. I think this guitar's got 11s on it. This was actually is it standard tuning, but as a rhythm instrument and as a lead instrument of it. Another flavor of single coil world that's just once you get into Telecasters. They're really cool. Sorry, rabbit trail, but gosh, that was fun. All right. All right, yeah, so at one point I was going to... The idea of kind of outlining 1/4 in your 5. kind of doing various there are certain ones that'll sound better and certain ones that they don't sound as good. But basically, you're basically playing fourths or thirds, and then kind of, in this case, going, that's a fourth, minor third, fourth, minor third, the major third to a major second. Not necessarily my favorite. My favorite, unless I'm wanting to build a little bit of tension, but rather than, you can, instead of doing on the third and second, do on the third and first. Come on, come back. And that's just using that A note if I can get it to ring. But that flat seven. And that right there. That minor third. And you're really just kind of frequently, you played an F major chord there, kind of outlining that from the, that's right, if I'm in the key of F sharp major, and I outline, oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. Oh right, no, that's not what I wanted to do. Right, that's what I wanted to do. If you played an F major, that's not what I wanted to do at all. Let's see if I can set that up in a slightly, no, well, let's just say we're going to stay there. No. Say we're in the key of G major. If you play this G major bar chord, you're basically using, if you will, the G major pentatonic, which is really the same as pattern number 2 of the E minor pentatonic. But if you play kind of, if you will, pattern number 3 of the E minor pentatonic, and you play this chord right here, you're kind of playing, that G major in first inversion, you're kind of resolving. Out of that, you're playing it in second inversion. And then we're kind of going off the 1. But you can use the pentatonic to also harmonize. So if you go down to E from this G major, moved over to C mixolydian. jump down a step and a half and play A minor pentatonic with a scale known as A minor pentatonic, because we're really playing C major pentatonic around this chord. But you can basically play major chord, jump a step and a half down, and play pattern number 1 of the minor pentatonic. That guy right there is the upper side of that C major chord. So we're outlining. That's the C major in first inversion. Kind of adding the 6th and going back to the C major, if you will, in second inversion. That's the 1 and it's 5. And we're kind of using that natural 6th. And that's stuff that's more traditionally done on a narrow aperture single coil pickup instrument. Not that you can't do it on something more like this. So what, we were up here. Now with this guitar, I am going to bring it back up into pentode. Oh, that's right. This neck pickup can be a little honky. But I go over to number 2 here. All right. Point made, hopefully. Okay, good. Plus hybrid picking. There you go. So I'm taking basically playing the flat 7. If we just thought about this as the minor pentatonic today, with the flat 7, the 5, and the 4. So I'm playing the 1. You get the point. All right, good. Totally, and that's it. You know, this guitar. Funny thing is the bridge pickup. I love the sound of this guitar, even with cleaner tones in the bridge pickup, which is not, back in the day, I never would have used the bridge pickup for cleaner type tones, but it does it so well. All right, good. So this is an interesting thing. Guitar players benefit from the nature of this. Arguably, oh, I can pull this up. Hang on a second. The answer is yes, sort of. There we go. If you were to look at the shape of that C major triad of C, E, and G there, and you went to play a C minor triad, which would be C, E flat, and G, you could see that basically you would kind of be playing for C, E, and G. Let's see if I can hide these fingers. Boy, that's kind of hard to do. Tuck that guy in. No, I can't do that. All right, yeah, there we go. That's playing the thumb on. That's going to be backwards. Oh, holy cow! What am I doing? Thumb on C, middle finger on E. Well, say I use my thumb on C, my middle finger on E, and my pinky on G, like bang. So that thumb, middle, and pinky. So that would be my major shape. I would drop that second finger down to E flat for my minor shape. I would drop my pinky down to G flat for the diminished shape. So yeah, there is a shape that you would kind of just know for that. And the other thing about that is then imagine you kind of going, there's your 1, 3, 5, there's your 3, 5, and your 1, where you have major third, minor third. Now you're going to go minor third, perfect fourth. Then you're going to go perfect fourth, major third as you go between root position, first inversion, and second inversion. So the notes may shift a little bit to add the sharps to the flats, but there is a shape-based thing that's happening there on the piano. It's a great question. So yes, 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 and yes. And yeah, mandolin and banjo. I'm sure they're. Oh, hold on, let me get back over there. I'm sure they're happening on those instruments as well. But I do not play mandolin or banjo. So there. Hard to play talking about love on a banjo. Oh, that's awesome. Janie is awesome. You know, I met Janie with the Dunlop guys at NAMM show, and it was really, really cool. She was very, very nice. I actually met Jimmy's dad at Narada Michael Walden's house, and he had the biggest hand. So I'm like, oh, I guess I can tell where Jimmy got his ginormous, but his hand just kind of enveloped my hand. I'm like, huh. But it was really kind of cool. It was like it's kind of the next best thing to shaking Jimmy's hand. It was really cool. Al Hendricks. Again, still got the Mel Bay book. You know, that's what's great about those is we don't have a tendency to get rid of them. All right. Perfect fourth, perfect fifth, flat five, perfect fifth. There we go. Come on. What's going on, Philip? How you doing? With great pleasure. What else am I going to do on a Saturday? Holy cow. Sleep, watch TV, get a chance to hang out with y'all. And A blues start on G, A, B flat. There we go. Oh, there we go. Oh, he's talking about this guy. Let me read you literally. All right, in A blues start on. Oh, sorry. Wait. So you really want to do the B flat? Oh, I see. Okay. So this is kind of where it's helpful to kind of know where things are at. So we talked about that flat nine. So if you know where the octaves. So you know where your octave. I'm basically playing like a little Phrygian deal. I shouldn't say Phrygian deal. I'm basically playing the flat 7-1 and the flat 2. But as you walk that. So I'm basically, instead of, Joe, like I said, showed me the symmetrical scale, which was half whole, and that little half step. And then this diminished scale, he was just like, well, just basically start on the whole step. Oh, hold on. Yeah, vaguely something like that. But the idea, oh, you can also go right. So instead of doing the half whole, go whole half. Move that up in a basically a diminished fifth. But here you're having me play it a little bit more like symmetrical scale. Kind of a cool sound. I digress. All right. Yes. Ah. The other person who uses that that kind of Phrygian dominant sound is our buddy Eric Gales. Trying to add that now. Phrygian, by the way, is 1, flat 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 1. Phrygian dominant takes the flat 3 and makes it a natural 3, so instead of playing a minor 7 chord, A, C, E, G, you get A, C sharp, E, G, and that gives us a dominant 7 chord instead of a minor 7. And anytime you play a dominant 7 chord, you could hear that as mixed linear or as Phrygian dominant as well, because you're just basically taking the elements of one or more scales and playing them at the same time. If you got a 1, flat 7, and 3, or the 1, flat 7, 3, and 5, any scale that's got a 1, 3, 5, flat 7, as in mixed Lydian, or if I play the natural 3, that is Phrygian dominant. Alright, I've digressed. Thank you very much. Yeah, you phase 90'd me. That's okay. I kind of like it. I gleefully took the beat. The beat. Hello. Thanks, Eric. Great to see you. I love that little Kramer. It's such the unexpected guitar. So yes. Just to kind of get back. The great thing about the flat 7, actually, here's a little exercise for you. Let's just say you play the dominant 7 chord, just voiced 1, flat 7, 3 as an A, G, and C sharp. Whether you're going to play the mixed Lydian or start off the 3. And then start off the flat 7. And then the 5 you can play it up here, but start off here. Or off here. Or off here. Again, that's where it helps to know that note. A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C. As we talked about the pentatonic, I'm going to take that E. I'm going to play it there. I jumped into minor pentatonic there, just kind of back to what we were talking about on Thursday. Looking for an E. I play an F. It'll be a flat 6. Flat 6 allows me to But it just gives you a different perspective to start on. It's like starting on a different beat. So I'm going to start on the 1. I'm going to play some minor pentatonics. So I go 1, 2, 3, 4. Sorry, I started on flat 7. So 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So if you find that you're kind of playing the same licks in the same places, try at least starting off the same note. Purposely start off of a common starting note that you have. Start of a lot of, like for me, Spencer mentioned the flat 7 there for a minute ago. Instinctively, I wanted to try and start off the 1, and I just kind of started off the flat 7 there, because I frequently will do that as like kind of a little embellishment to get to the 1. But the idea of starting on different beats, using a common note that you start things off of, it will just kind of allow you to start the phrases in a different place. And in theory, you're going to play different things as it responds to that. Okay. Isn't that a lovely strat? The funny thing is Melissa's like, pink strat. Like, she just didn't get, still kind of doesn't get the guitar. Oh, awesome, 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 awesome. Mike, hello, my friend. Always a pleasure. So, to answer your question, so in the neck position, this guitar is a little pokey. So, that's why going to so this is a sustaining F pickup, but it's also a now aperture humbucking pickup. And I'm 99% positive these are stacked coils. So the way this guitar has been created by design, if I go to the number 4, or the number 2 pickup selection, sure everything's all the way up, there we go. is the number 3 / middle position, or the number 1. It's the number 2. It's got a very, brings a lot of the elements of the Strat over, even though it's not Fender Scope. Neck pickup can be a little honky, but for Sustainiac stuff, kind of can't beat that. The middle position, if there's perhaps one thing that I might change in a future version, this middle pickup is a little bright. So it works really well on, it's the Virtual 2 middle model, which worked really well on my S470, which is my main guitar that I played for a long time before I moved over to Gibson's. But when it's blended, especially in the number 2 position, the honkiness of it complements ironically, it's brighter than my bridge pickup. Excuse me. So the combination of the two work really well together. But one of my favorite sounds is kind of utilizing the bridge pickup with a tone control. And because of the way this guitar is wired, there's actually not a tone control available on the middle position to do the other things that we wanted to do. There's a little bit of stuff that Gary had to do to make that work. So, but I can tell by the tone of that, if I could back off that pickup, there's some, just pulling that top end off a little. I can just tame off the top end a little bit. There's a whole other layer of sound. So getting back to, for example, if I go to the neck pickup, and I pull the tone off, there's a bunch of stuff that starts happening as you kind of just begin manipulating with how hard you're hitting with your right hand. Both all the way up. I said both all the way up. Tone control off. Hitting soft. Tone control a little bit. That little bit of the loss of the transient of the pick attack makes it feel a little bit more ES335 like, which, considering what this is and all of that, it's anything but an ES335 instrument. Kind of forgot my own solo. Basically, but it's from a song called Hell or High Water. go. So, it's trying to make the guitar. If I back that off. Well, oh, hang on. There we go. Let's see. Come on. No guarantees on it being in tune. So that's kind of the vibe that we're shooting for on that. By again taking the neck pickup, backing it off on the tone control, and in turn hitting softer with the pick. Sorry. Back it off a little bit more. There it is. So with the ability to kind of manipulate the tone controls, you're really kind of, manipulating the tone controls, and that and by backing off with the right hand, you can really kind of make this guitar sound kind of ES-y, and you wouldn't know if you hit it hard. And I probably couldn't get that same sort of vibe off of something that was a Fender scale instrument, would be my thought. Okay, good. So the triode is really, really, really nice. And the funny thing is that traditionally when I think about running in pento versus triode, I think about loosening up the transients on the top end of the amp, but one of the things about these particular amps is because they're EL34s, they have a tighter consistency than the amps that we traditionally have an option of running pento and triode, which are either 6L6 based amps or EL84 based amps. That is to say, I've got a Vox AC30 hand-wired 50th anniversary, whatever it is, got that in a head and a combo, and that can run at pento triode. And then also you've got that in the Mark 7. So traditionally, as well as other boogie amps, but traditionally when you think of pento triode, you do not think of it as it relates to an EL34, which again, the bottom end with the EL34 has the tendency to be nice and tight, so loosen that up. So it gives down there a little bit more is really, really nice. So yes, well spoken. John, good morning. Always a pleasure, my dear friend. Great to see you. Hello. Listen to you, kind of off topic. Spencer Speaks. What do you know? If you went back, if you have a backup guitar in case you break your string, this is going to be a great question. That backup guitar is a completely different personality going through your rig. Follow the shouts. Followed with shouts to turn it down. So, generally speaking, I believe especially when you're out and about, on the road, having a hot swappable backward guitar that's virtually identical. They never sound the same. They never play the same, but they're more the same than not. And first of all, with the Gibsons, and this is not a slight on Fenders. In many ways, it's kind of the magic of it. I never played two Strats that sound alike. Ever, 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 ever. The Gibsons have a tendency to sound a little bit more like each other in a good way. And so I have a second V that we're in the process of kind of beginning to do a makeover on, and you know we one of these guitars is actually get an actual Floyd Rose where we route the back of the body. I don't know which guitar it's going to be. Might be that one, but this guitar needs a refret and has needed a refret because it looks like a rutted path all the way up and down the neck. That's usually, by the way, if you want to know who you are on a guitar. Oh, this is kind of crafty, if I may say so myself. Pull the strings aside and look at your guitar in the light. And you look for the indentations on the frets, and that's going to tell you who you are. I remember watching a guitar video of somebody being interviewed, and I think they were at Carter Vintage, and they were kind of having this funny conversation. And you know, it was kind of an old guitar where it was like a Strat, you know, maple necked, maple fingerboard, maple neck Strat, maple maples, we would say. And you could see all the wear was down there in the first kind of 3 frets. And somebody made a comment, it's like, you don't make any money on those in the notes above the 12th fret, which I thought was a funny aside. But as I kind of look down the neck here, pretty much the entire length of the G string is worn down pretty much at every fret, which is a good sign. It means that I'm having tendency to play not just in the same key over and over. What it really means is I play in the same multiple of keys over and over, but they have enough differing notes that there's a lot of wear and tear. But if by chance you kind of look down here and you kind of see 2nd fret and 5th fret and 7th fret, you're going to begin to kind of go, wow, I'm spending a lot of time in the A minor pentatonic if those particular frets are particularly pitted compared to the others. It's a great question. But, you know, the other side of that coin that's super important is knowing if you start to get too attached to a single guitar, you start to make compromised decisions on purpose that aren't always the best decisions. And this guitar, for the things that I'm doing in the albums that I'm working on, is the main instrument. But every so often, oh, had a student that's not feeling well. Sorry to hear that. Hang on a second. I'm messaging him because he was on here, but I'm not going to call him out. Hey, Nimrod, how you feeling? Nice and sick? Oh, that's great. No, as opposed to like, hey, my dear friend, I'm not going to call you on the stream. Get better, my friend, if you're still watching. And if not, well, you're not watching, but curl up and take a snooze. All right, digression apart. Digression, I love that. Okay. So what ended up happening was there's a song. Sure, hang on a second. I gotta mute my mic. Maybe I'll remember to unmute it. That's this guitar. Something like that. That's more like it. All right. So, but for the rest of the track, it wasn't quite right. So I switched guitars.
lots of money. I don't need a big fine car. I don't have to stay out all night, 'cause I got me a sweet loving woman, and she knows just how to treat me right. Well, my baby, she's alright. Well, my baby, she's clean out of sight. Don't you know that she is? She's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of wonderful. She's some kind of wonderful. Yeah, 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 yeah. When I hold her.
So that right there is a really good example of just kind of going, you know, you're wanting trying to fit a round peg in a square hole, and finally I just kind of went, it's not the right guitar for the track. And so literally I had the amp set identically. I kind of slept on it. I kind of went, I know I'm going to swap guitars. And initially, this was not the guitar that I had in mind. I think I was going to go for a Les Paul. Could have had a Les Paul. But I just kind of instinctively, though, picked up this one. It was just perfect for what I was trying to get. This has got a smaller, brighter sound in the track, and where at the top you kind of need that kind of, you know, punch the listener in the gut and get their attention sort of a vibe. This guitar does not have the depth in the body that the other V does, but it sits in the track. There's a phrase, tucked in, and if you haven't heard that and spent any time recording, let me encourage you to fall in love with that phrase, because tucked in, you know, if your mama used to tuck you into bed at night like my mom did, there's a particular feeling about when the track is tucked in. You're like, oh, there it is. It's just sitting in that perfect spot. It's nice and just comfortable where it's sitting. It's not too loud. It's not too soft, but it feels like it's sitting in the right place. That's a combination of EQ and volume, and that has to do with the attack of the right hand. Are you hitting the string too hard, too soft, at the right volume? You know, are you getting the right transient attack? That is, say, right there, that loud part. If you looked at that on a timeline, you'd see this jump of that first little bit, and that's that initial transient, and that's, you know, an important part of the initial part of your sound. So that's kind of what you hear right off that pick attack, and it's important. All right. There you go. So, all right, hang on a second. All right, so the Badlander provides a distinct choice with pentode versus triode mode, AFA. As feel. It is a phenomenal feature, and I use it all the time. And, you know, the funny thing is I usually broke the strings long before I ever had the opportunity to take them off and boil them. And that's totally it. For those of you that might be on an iPhone or some sort of mobile device, the approach and techniques changed. A different instrument gives you different colors and sounds. I love that. A good way to explain to people why players need guitars and why guitar players need different guitars. Absolutely, and it's just, you know, the funny thing is, you know, the even with a body design, this is the same bridge pickup as is on that guitar, but they're just because it's the same bridge pickup and it's the same body design, there's nothing about these two guitars that really sounds the same, which is kind of funny. So, hello, Miguel. Great to see you. Thank you so much, my friend. Do I have any Gretsch guitars that I like? Let's see. And recommend. So, number one, Gretsch guitars come at a range of price points and different vibes of what you're looking for. The answer is yes, and this is, what's this guy's name here? Right. So this is the Steve Wariner Gentleman. Did it get a country on there, or it's Gentleman? Nashville Gentleman. And this guitar, the amp is not necessarily set in the perfect place for this. Oh, I've been muting. I didn't mute there. There we go. but this is the Steve Wariner Nashville Gentleman, and this is not a cheap guitar. But realize that does not sound nearly as groovy as it does. My direct out thing, for whatever reason, my interface was not happy with me this morning, so you're hearing me through my talkback mic. Which, picking that up over there. But this is a really special garage. So this is Steve Wariner, Nashville Gentleman. It's, kind of a really big-bodied, Bigsby equipped. You don't want to flog on the log too much. But, it... kind of does, a range of tones really beautifully well. The Electromatic series are really great. Chris Rocha, very dear friend of mine, has a signature Gretsch that's kind of not dissimilar in terms of shape. It's not as thick. That's a great guitar, and it's part of the Electromatic series. If I was going to recommend a guitar, I don't have one of Chris's guitars yet, but that would be a great place to start. I think you would love that. So hope that helps. Right. That guitar's not out down here. That guitar, so it's technically a Telecaster Custom, but it has one of the best. It's got one of these. I may pronounce this wrong, cuneife, but it's basically an abbreviation for the metals that went into. The Fe is ferrite. The Ni, C-U-N-I-F-E, I think it will be nickel. And then the Cu of the Cuni is Cu. But collectively, and that's the kind of the most famous, if you look at kind of the Stones in the 70s, and Keith was playing a guitar with, traditional telly pickup and then a humbucker in the neck. They kind of look more like a Gibson humbucker. Not to be confused with, the butterscotch telly with an actual, kind of humbucker in it, but kind of the Sunburst one. That has one of the best jazz guitar sounds in the neck position ever, and you wouldn't have expected it. And, it's an interesting thing about Telecasters, like the 59 I was playing a little bit earlier. Generally speaking, you just pluck the strings on the neck and kind of go, oh, this is one of those rhythm instruments. And pretty much just doing that, it's going to tell you a huge amount about the character of the guitar. You don't have to play anything on the instrument, but and as soon as I did that with that 59, I'm like, oh, this is a great rhythm guitar. Just could tell by the way the strings responded and so they would reveal a lot. And yes, it had a great sound. And yeah, the Strat sounds great. Michael, what's going on? Thank you very much. Double stops are magic. Magic, magic, magic. Steve Karras, great to see you. Thank you so much. Mandolin, tune same as a violin. Yeah, the funny thing is when my pads are wide enough, I can get away with guitar, but any of those smaller scale instruments, I'm in serious trouble. Bonjour. You are digress, my friend. All right. Les Paul Custom with 10s on it. You can pick so fast on it. Now I'm switching to Ibanez with 9s, and I notice I can't quite pick as fast. I think that's, one of the things that happens as we get a little bit older. I think we practice different things, and we your treasure's where your heart is. So the idea is if we find ourselves practicing a broader range of things, it's not maybe as narrow a range of things that we used to spend as much time chasing after. So the end result, there is less shred happening more easily. And I think it's just because, if I were to analyze myself, I spend less time actually focused on shreds. So when I come back to it, I'm like, oh, I got to brush this thing off a little bit. And there's nothing wrong with that. It just happens. Gibson 175. Those are cool. I never had one of those, but those are really cool. That's awesome. Awesome, Miguel. That's a pleasure. So I'll look at you with your PG. I love that. So this guitar, this was an expensive guitar. And it's kind of on extended loan from the good people at Gretchen, and it's probably going to live here until I die. So I'm thankful for that. Really special instrument. A little out of tune. Really special instrument. Interestingly enough, the neck pickup, you would normally think that the neck pickup, if you're looking for meaty, although the neck pickup is a great sound, I spend most of my time by instinct that probably didn't translate like it did in the room. Boy, that really sounds lovely. I spend most of my time though. Oh, there. It's not going to do it now. That ping sound is the string twisting at the nut. Not the greatest sound in the world because it means your guitar's on. There we go, Telecustom. Hola, Tony, ¿cómo está? Buenos días, mi amigo. Love that photo. Thank you very much. Awesome. Rick, you are fantabulous. Right back at you, my friend. Great to see you. Hello, hello, hello. Guitar Wixard. Not too many wizards. There we go. Appreciate that. Thanks so much. Tony, what's going on? Great to see you. Watching me from work. Thank you so much. Hope that was a help. Awesome, awesome. Good, good, good. All's good in life. Great to see you. I look forward to seeing you soon. Spencer, personal story. I picked fast because I had awful vibrato, 15-year break with kids, and I came back to enjoy sustaining notes. I don't recommend a 15-year break, but it made a difference. That's great to hear. I love that. Vibrato is the S. It's the punctuation at the end of the sentence. So thing about a fast vib. If you heard that, you kind of go, "Oh, that's weird," but it makes sense depending on the phrase. So last point, and then I got to take a little break before I start teaching at 11:30. Is that a lot of people like the right hand, this is what a cautionary tale, they have a tendency to kind of hit the strings at the same volume and wonder why it doesn't quite sound right for what they're doing. The idea of being able to utilize I'm over by the bridge. Actually, that's how it kind of goes. But if I get too... holding the pick softer, and I'm not hitting hard. So when you want to get it to that kind of exclamation point at the beginning of the phrase, and a soft period at the end of the sentence for this, being really conscious of that pick dynamic. And also, pulling back on the time is another way to just kind of, what are the things that you want to kind of just begin to, like, if you think about them as controls, all right, there's right hand dynamics, bringing it down and bringing it up. There's tone dynamics with the pickup selection and the tone controls. And then there's time dynamics, right? And I think, it's easy to kind of forget about those things as we're playing and just kind of get caught up in the moment. Not that there's anything wrong with getting caught up in the moment, but the more we can kind of begin to go, hey, let me make sure that I'm being as artistic in my approach to this without kind of losing the point is I think, a help. All right. Ese sonido es... I have no idea what that means. Hang on a second. Hold on a second. Google Translate. That is great and very warm. Muchas gracias, amigo. This guitar sounds great. It's just kind of like, it kind of plays, it's almost like a big giant car. Gracias, amigo. It's kind of like you get into it, it kind of drives itself. It's a really, though... It's a really neat instrument. Okay. Okay. Oh, awesome. Coincide Productions, what's going on? Hello. Hey, Eric, great to see you, my friend. Always a pleasure. Hello. Awesome. Albert... Badlander is one of the most responsive Mesa The Badlander is one of the more responsive Mesas, sounding really well to pick dynamics as you can do. Yeah, no, it's my favorite amp. All right, Andrew, better late than never. Thank you so much. It's gorgeous, and also there's this little gold speck that they got into the paint. It's a really crazy guitar, and it's just I kind of like gold stuff, and it's just they've just done a great job. And the thing about it, it's snazzy without being overly flashy, right? And there's a fine line between that. I can quote Cheech and Chong, but it may not be rated G. There we go. All right, Rick. Awesome. Albuquerque. All right, gentlemen. Andrew, always a pleasure. Great to see everybody. I got a lesson that's going to start in a minute. Now, gold and black, you kind of can't go, hey, wait a second. You're jumping over. You're in multiple places. Look at that sharp photo there. Dang, look at you, all handsome. Love that. Have I seen that before? Awesome. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris, actually, thank you. You're always such a joy. And, all the people, there we go. All the people that, kind of kindly wished us a happy anniversary. It was lovely. We had a wonderful time. Griffin, thank you so much. Always appreciate your insights and help. With pleasure. Hopefully that we never quite veered back to the pentatonic, but gosh darn, that was a lot of fun. And, I tell you what, it is a pretty act. So let me just briefly say in closing, the 15-minute, the Theory Geek Thursday this week was about taking that minor pentatonic scale. If I could pour everything we've talked about in the past couple of minutes into that as a recap, number one is if you can see that minor chord that's inside there and kind of go, those notes. Those are great notes to end or start. Your phrases from, or both. The other part of that is per Chris's comment about, he was saying in Videology, Steve had mentioned, you can find the way to make any note work. Well, if I think about this chord, this note, or all right, and then in turn being able to see this as numbers 1 flat 3 4 5 flat 7 1, because if you can see this little box, this 1 flat 3 4 5, and can see that that starts at A, I can take that everywhere there's an A. I have to take it into account if I'm going to play this shape, where these strings are tuned in fourths and these strings are tuned in thirds. I have to take that shape and play the note on the upper string a fret higher, but I'm just cutting and pasting that A, C, D, E box everywhere I got an A. And what's neat about that, now interestingly enough, if I play this A right here and this A that right there, if we get stuck playing in the places that we play over and over and over again, we might miss the beautiful texture you get there. And there's that box there. And traditionally we think, all right, as quoting Spencer, we thought of this as the pentatonic box. Well, there's actually 5 boxes that we might think of as the 5 different patterns. Or we might think about those as the 5 boxes. Now the third box and the 5th box are the same shape, but one is going, in this particular case, going D, E, G, A, and the other is going G, A, C, D. That is to say, it's a different location in the scale, but beginning to recognize how these boxes line up is really cool. Last thing is, whether you're thinking of this as a shape, a sound, or as 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, we can cut, or A, C, D, E, G, A, you can cut and paste not just the box, but the adjacent, if we will, string pair boxes. There I was doing what I call a side-by-side. So if you think about that, there's your 1, flat 3, 4, 5 box. So that's, say, the box is started off the 1. The second note of the 1 is the flat 3. So that's the second box. And that right there, regardless of what finger you finger it with, is the flat 7 box. There's the 5 box. Flat 7. 1. Flat 3. 4. 5. Flat 7. And you can get there taking this little elevator up. That is, say I'm at the 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4, 1, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 7, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 4, 5, flat 7, 1, 5, flat 7, 1, flat 3, flat 7, 1, flat 3, 4. And that way you're just kind of plugging that in and using it to really, like I said, kind of in the Theory Geek Thursday thing, take ownership of the pentatonic. And it's a very different approach for one of the prettiest scales out there, right? All right. Excellent, 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 excellent. Adios. I frequently do a little bit of a... little kind of modulatory sort of stuff. All right. Embracing the notes is a beautiful thing. And yes, all 12 of them, you know, especially when you kind of know. Last thought. Let's say I'm in A. Let's go here. How, if I have a minor triad, how that natural 6 or the flat 6 or the flat 5 or the natural 7. That is to say, we're again picking and choosing any one of these scale degree numbers and going A. Or the natural 6. Or the flat 7. Flat 6. How it can be used to really kind of add color to the pentatonic in a very interesting way. All right. Happy Thanksgiving to all. Thank you so much. Much love. God bless. Have a great week. Thank you. And I'll see you next Saturday on Doppler's Gear Garage. Thanks again. Cheers.